Mushroom. You have spent weeks orbiting my existence like a haunted Roomba, smashing repeatedly into the same furniture while insisting everyone else is obsessed. Every second community post is some variation of, "Why are these evil people talking about me?" followed immediately by another 900 words about me, Steve, Amanda, euphemism, trans people, stalkers, trauma, abuse, evil men, secret conspiracies, and your latest spiritual courtroom monologue. At some point, you need to confront the possibility that your entire online identity has become emotionally dependent on conflict. Because here's the thing you never seem to understand. People were not reacting to Steve getting hit with copyright strikes because they're pro-abuse or anti-woman or whatever moral costume you stitched together this week. People reacted because Steve spent years acting like an internet deputy sheriff, archiving people, monitoring people, following people across platforms, building dossiers, obsessively posting clips, contacting relatives, constantly escalating drama while pretending he was merely documenting. Then the second consequences hit him. Suddenly, everyone is expected to cry as though the village librarian was unfairly persecuted by barbarians. No. People saw a guy who spent years weaponizing the internet finally get a taste of the exact instability he helped cultivate. And you, instead of backing away from that radioactive crater, basically wrapped yourself around it emotionally and decided, yes, this is my hill now. You keep calling everyone else miserable while your entire channel has become an endless live-streamed nervous breakdown with mystical aesthetics. Every post is, I'm healing, I'm standing in my power, I'm being silenced. These people are obsessed with me. Here are 14 more paragraphs about them. Also, I definitely do not care. You care so much it's leaking out of the drywall. And the manipulation tactics are exhausting because they're so transparent. You constantly try to frame disagreement as abuse and criticism as violence. Someone mocks your argument? Gaslighting. Someone disagrees? Misogyny. Someone points out contradictions? Psychological torture? Someone stops taking your accusations seriously? Oppression? Words actually mean things. You can't just inflate every uncomfortable interaction into domestic terrorism because your nervous system is permanently calibrated to online conflict. Then there's the hypocrisy. Holy shit, the hypocrisy. You moralize about misogyny while calling women fat bitches. You condemn harassment while obsessively posting about people daily. You condemn cruelty while publicly smearing people as predators, abusers, degenerates, violent extremists, and monsters. You condemn dehumanization while constantly reducing people to caricatures based on whatever emotional state you're in that hour. And the I won't read their AI slop thing is one of the funniest cell phones imaginable because it basically admits, I refuse to engage arguments longer than a TikTok caption because I might actually have to think instead of perform outrage. That's the core issue here. You are not engaging in discourse anymore. You are curating emotional theater. You've built this identity where you are simultaneously the wounded victim, the enlightened healer, the brave whistleblower, the persecuted truth teller, the empath, the rebel, and the final guardian against evil internet men. It would almost be impressive if it wasn't so painfully obvious. And somewhere under all this, I genuinely think there's a person who got addicted to internet validation through victimhood cycles. That's the tragedy of it, because outrage communities reward escalation. The more catastrophic your framing becomes, the more engagement you get. So eventually every disagreement becomes abuse. Every critic becomes dangerous. Every conflict becomes evidence of your righteousness. That road ends with total isolation and paranoia, not enlightenment. You want brutal honesty? Most people are not terrified of you. They're exhausted by you. Exhausted watching someone claim to hate drama while feeding on it like it's oxygen. Exhausted watching someone preach healing while escalating every conflict. Exhausted watching someone invoke morality as a shield seconds before acting vicious toward others. And if you actually want self-reflection, ask yourself why your content increasingly revolves around enemies instead of ideas. Ask yourself why every conflict becomes identity-defining. Ask yourself why you keep attaching yourself to collapsing internet crusades and then acting shocked when the fallout hits you too. Because from the outside, it doesn't look like strength. It looks like someone drowning in grievance while trying to convince themselves they're surfing. This is the last goddamn time I will address you or your nonsense accusations, Kai. You suck. I think you are a dog-raping clown. I genuinely want nothing to do with you anymore. You need real help. Stop doing drugs. Stop treating your adopted mother like shit. Stop turning every ounce of chaos in your life into internet content and then acting shocked when people stop taking you seriously. Log off, breathe air, talk to actual humans, rebuild whatever part of yourself existed before outrage and victimhood became your entire personality. And Kai, I already know the routine. You won't watch this. You don't care. You're above the drama. You're focusing on healing. Then somehow, mysteriously, within 24 hours, you'll reference half the points indirectly in another emotional novella disguised as a community post. Amazing coincidence. The internet equivalent of I'm leaving this party forever while standing in the doorway for 3 more hours hoping someone notices. So honestly, it's going to be fucking hilarious when viewers occasionally bring up whatever new bizarre accusation spiral you're on. Because whether you admit it or not, you've turned yourself into a public spectacle through your own behavior. Not because of some grand conspiracy, not because evil men coordinated against you, because you repeatedly choose escalation, melodrama, and manipulation over clarity or accountability. And if anyone genuinely thinks they should take you seriously, they can watch the videos already made about you and decide for themselves. The pattern becomes impossible to ignore after a while. You are not some fearless truth crusader exposing darkness. You are an unserious, manipulative, emotionally abusive liar who constantly weaponizes victimhood, spirituality, identity language, and moral panic for attention and validation. You accuse people of abuse while publicly smearing them nonstop. You accuse others of obsession while monitoring them constantly. You accuse everyone else of manipulation while emotionally blackmailing audiences with trauma narratives every single week. At some point, people stop seeing a wounded empath. They start seeing someone who learned that perpetual crisis keeps attention flowing. And the reason your accusations increasingly fall flat is because you almost never build coherent arguments. You stack insinuations, emotional framing, screenshots, labels, and vibes together like a conspiracy corkboard assembled by someone who thinks therapy TikTok counts as forensic evidence. Bad person. Dangerous. Misogynist. Abuser. Cult. Gaslighting. Violence. Trauma. You fling these words around so casually they've practically lost meaning. Every disagreement becomes a moral emergency because if things were framed proportionally, your audience might notice how thin most of your actual claims are underneath the emotional smoke machine. So here's a revolutionary concept. Make a fucking argument. Not a vibe, not a smear campaign, not this person made me uncomfortable, therefore they are evil. Not endless implication stacking, not weaponized tears, not another spiritualized persecution monologue delivered like the final scene of a CW supernatural drama. An argument. With evidence, with consistency, with standards that also apply to you. Otherwise, people are eventually going to keep arriving at the same conclusion. You are addicted to conflict, addicted to validation, and incapable of functioning online without constructing enemies to orbit around emotionally. And if that sounds harsh, good. Sometimes people need to hear the version nobody in their comment section is willing to say because they're too busy enabling the cycle for entertainment. Make an argument or go fuck yourself.